Today's video is going to show you how you can set up an email opt-in form to grow your email list using the Divi theme within the Divi page builder. So the way it works is you want to open up a page and enable a visual builder, or go into your theme builder and find where you want to add it in. And we're in here in the editor and we're going to add in our email opt-in. Now I'm going to add this at the very bottom of this page, and I'm actually going to add a dedicated row, which I'm going to explain why later, but for now we're just going to sort of like step things out and go from there. So I'm going to add a regular row and a single column. You can choose whatever structure you want. If you want to place it within a column, within a more complex layout, you can do that. Otherwise, I'm just going for this video, a single column, and I want to add a module by clicking the gray area and going to email opt-in. Now I'm going to zoom out a little bit because it's just a little bit tight. Down the bottom again, and this is our email opt-in. It looks pretty ugly at the moment, but we're going to get into that soon. So one of the things is you want to make sure your text is legible. We also need to link it up to our email provider. I'm going to touch on this very quickly, but I have dedicated videos I'll pop into the description below for MailChimp and ConvertKit, which are the two email providers I tend to use. But if you want to get that out of the way, the first thing we need to do is scroll down to email account. And from here, you can choose MailChimp. For example, if you choose MailChimp and click add, because there's no list there at the moment, it'll ask you for an API key and you can name it whatever you want. If I go back and say choose ConvertKit, down here somewhere, sure, here we are, ConvertKit. Once again, we'll click add, but it actually asks for an API key and an API secret. So you need to put your account name in there, which is just any name you want this to be called. And where to find those keys is pretty simple. I'm going to start with ConvertKit by switching over. So if you're using ConvertKit, you want to go to the top right and go to your settings. And then you want to scroll to the bottom left and choose the advanced section. And this is where you can find your API key. If I tab down, you can choose your API key, you can show your API secret, and click this little icon here to copy those values into the API key and API secret areas of that last sort of section. But what we're going to do, we're actually going to link up with MailChimp. So I'm going to tab to MailChimp. I need to go to the bottom left here, click accounts and billing. I go to extras and API keys. And I can choose an existing key, or if I scroll down, I can create a new key. I'm just going to go with an existing key for now. So I'm going to right click and copy that key, tab across, and I'm going to head back, choose MailChimp. I add my list, I paste my API key, and there I call it MailChimp. And then submit. So now I've actually linked up our mail list and we can start playing with the look and feel of this email opt-in. Now this is something I've forgotten. I've added this in after I've created the video. When you've set this up, you do want to go in and actually choose the list you want people to actually sign up to. So that way when they sign up the form, they go into the correct MailChimp list or ConvertKit list or whatever your email provider is. And so that way you actually want to link that up. Otherwise they're not going to go anywhere, because leaving this as select a list is actually not linked up. So choose the list you want them to actually sign up to, and then you'll be able to go from there. So I'm going to close this tab here. Now, the first thing I want to do is, this is really hard to read, so I want to touch on something very quickly, and that is if we're going to be using a dark background. So if I go to my background section here and choose black, then the white text is totally fine. But if I choose a lighter background, it's going to be hard to read. So if I choose a lighter color, or if I remove that altogether and I have a white background, then for my design tab up the top here, I want to scroll down to text and change the color from light to dark. And that way I can actually read it against the light background if I want to. But I prefer to use a dark background, so I'm going to switch that back to light for now, head back to content, grab my background and make it black. So before we go any further on this, we've linked up our email account, and there's a few different layouts you can work with here. It doesn't have to be text on the left and opt-in on the right. I can go back to the design tab, and in the very first area there's layout. And I can choose body on the left, form on the right. I can change that over. So the body's on the right and the form is on the left, or I can even go top and bottom. So body on the top, body on the bottom. So you can change that around. I'm going to go back to the default because I do think it is the best option because it sort of leads people with a bit of info here, and we go over to the right and people can then sign up. Another thing you might want is if you want more of a streamlined form, maybe we don't want this to be 3 fields. We can actually just make these both half width. So we got first name, last name, and email if you want to have something smaller. And also keep in mind, if I head back over to content, there's areas here that I'm going to go through and we can sort of play with that. But for now, I'm going to put this again back to full width while we go through this first tab. Just wanted to sort of dart back and forth a little bit to cover those points with you. So on the content tab here, if I open up text, this is where we put all of the information shows up. So maybe I'll say, sign up to receive our free guide, and then you have a title. You can put some more information here. Learn how to master Divi with our free ebook, which isn't an ebook that exists, by the way. This is just me talking. And there's also a footer section. So if I want to add some kind of like information in the footer, I can add like an asterisk and say, this book does not come with the theme itself, or something. Yeah, maybe you got to, or you can say, you know, no spam, something like that. Add a little bit of information down the bottom, and that way you can take full control of your form. So another thing I'm going to do, I'm going to add a little bit more info and just learn design modules and how to link up services. Give it a little bit more information. Sign up today, something like that. So I've got a bit of information here on the left and a little bit more there. We've got this set up on the right over here. We already have our email account linked up, which is good. But now when I go down to fields, I can actually choose to leave certain fields in. I can have one single name field that has the full name and the email, which is pretty cool. And a lot of people would probably go for that. You can even turn it off completely and just have the email if that's what you prefer. I generally like to include some kind of name field, so that way when I email out customers or my people on my list, I can actually address them by their name. You can also add in custom fields. There's no custom fields with my account, but if you add in extra fields, you can have those show up. But if you go back and add those in, you do want to go back into your email account, click Fetch Lists to update what Divi has on file for that. So you can actually choose to turn certain fields on or off here under the fields section, which is pretty cool. Now, success action. You want to display a message. If someone actually hits subscribe, you can change it over so it says a message like, thank you for signing up. However, maybe you want to redirect to a more complete thank you page you've designed, or maybe even something where they can download this free guide that you've mentioned. So you can actually switch and redirect to a custom URL and just pop that URL in there. You can also add in some queries at the end, such as, you know, the name of the person, the last name, and things like that, if you want to get sort of really particular about it. Again, for now, we're sticking to display a message and go from there. Spam protection, you can add a spam service like Google Recapture. So if you go in here, you can sign up with your Google Recapture account. If you just search for Google Recapture, and you can go into that service and add your website domain in there and get a version 3 key and add that in. I've already got one in here, so we're pretty much good to go, and maybe I'll do another video on how to set that up. If you do want to know that, leave a comment below, otherwise I will have it in the description and we can go from there. I'm going to leave that off because we're going to look at styling the form a bit more. I'll also, once again, to backtrack, pop a link to where you can get your Google Recapture key to add in there. Now, we've got the more usual sort of areas here, like link. If I want this module to have a clickable link, then I will add that in there. We don't really want that because it'll interfere with people being able to sign up on the form. The background is currently black. I can change it to a gradient. If you're not familiar with how the background section works, you can add in things like gradients like this, which I'm going to remove, or you can add a background image. So if I add this image in here, add a little sort of river and mountain image, I can dress that up a little bit. and makes the white a bit hard to read, but we can also go into the design tab, add some drop shadows and things like that. We can add a parallax effect, so as we scroll. Now this is something I noticed with the form. When you start adding certain background effects, it can interfere with the form. If I add in a background mask, it actually covers some of the form. So I can't actually use background masks, or I don't even think you can use background patterns either, because it actually covers the form itself and it makes it a little bit hard to use. So I'm going to actually remove those for now. I'm going to actually hit tick, so I'm happy with that, and I'm going to add a background in here. So I'm going to choose a background image, such as something that's going to be easy to read against. So I will actually got the same background as this, and we can then now choose to have an effect where if we go into our form, which once again, I do need to slow down a little bit. If you want to add this background image in, hover over the blue box, click the cog to add your background image here. Otherwise, we're going to go into here by clicking on the module itself or hovering over the module. On our little gray box, we click the cog. We scroll down to background, and maybe I'll just remove that image altogether. So we can actually set things up so we have a nice little box within a background image. You can go to your background color, click on that and make it semi-transparent with this slider on the right if you want to do that. But another thing you can do, we already have the section there, is I can just choose to remove the background color and sit the entire opt-in over the row so we get a full width background image behind our opt-in. So if I go back into this section by hovering over the blue section or clicking, going to this blue box and clicking the cog symbol, on the background area, I can now start to add in my background mask. So if I want to add in a mask, I think this one's pretty ugly. Maybe I choose something a bit different like this. Make it black. I can actually set something up like that. I can make the mask semi-transparent or add like some kind of blend mode to it. So I've got a few options. Sorry, I lie about the transparency. Here we go. So click on the color. We use the slider again, make that semi-transparent. And of course we can flip it if we want to and sort of play around with that background effect there and make full use of some of these background effects. And even on the image, I can add my parallax now and it won't interfere with the form. So we can see that moving up and down there pretty effectively. So we're going to leave the form like that for now. We've got that style, we've got our full width form looking the way we want. I'm actually going to go into the design tab now so we can play with things a little bit further. Now the layout we've mentioned before, I can show an inner shadow. Oh wait, this is the section, so add a shadow to the section itself. But I want to click on the module, go to the cog, and now we're going to play with some of the design features in the design tab up top here. Once again, the fields themselves are now, they currently have a background color of white. I can fancy it up a bit and make the background black with white text if I want to do that. I can make the background any color I want and the text any color I want if I really want to fancy it up. So let's just fancy it up with a black background and white text. The field focus color, we can actually make the background of that maybe something else, such as this charcoal color with green text. So if someone clicks into a field, it actually changes the background color. I don't know why the field focus text color hasn't changed, but just double check that. For some reason, it's just not working here, but maybe try saving, heading out of the visual editor to see if it works for you if you do play with that. I don't get too focused on the active color, but you can work with that. And you can add a field margin. So this will create space outside of those boxes. So if I say top and bottom, we've got 50 pixels, we end up with these big margins. I can also make them very little, like 1 pixel. If I link this together and add in 1 pixel top and bottom, it makes it a little bit tighter, and I can adjust from there. Left and right, not so much unless we have some of these half width fields. And the padding, I can make the padding, which is the space inside the field around the text, much bigger. So if I decide to go 20 all the way around, I get these nice big fields that I can type into. So that's pretty cool. And we can change the font and the font weight, make everything capitals. We can even align it to the right, center. You can actually change all of the text settings within those fields just by scrolling down and playing with that there. You can even make the field background color, again, semi-transparent if you want to go that way as well. So you've got full control over the appearance of the fields under this fields area here. Now text alignment, we can change that to right and left. That is this left section here. We can add a shadow. And underneath here where that shadow is, I can just choose straight black if it doesn't stand out against this background. And we have all the typical text stylings here, such as alignment, text color, which is currently light. And this is more of an overall setting for the text. That's why we don't have a ton of really exact options. So if I close this text field, now we have the title text. Here, you'll see the box appear around it. Oh, it didn't appear the first time, but not the second time. Box here, the body text, the result text, which is what we typed in as a success message after they've signed up. And you can go in and make all of the very specific little adjustments you want. I can make this blue color. I can change the font again to something a little bit crazier like this. I don't really like that, so I'm going to change it to something else, so maybe this. And we can really customize the look of every little piece of the email opt-in. Letter spacing, line height. You can go through, have a play with it, see what you think. I can right align the title and left align the text, which is not a great idea if you're into typography and making things easy to read. I'm going to change this back to default. So you can really change every little piece of this form in the text, in the body text as well. Once again, I can make the body text bigger. I can make the font weight a little lighter. I think maybe it's a little bit too heavy. Line height, we can bring that down. And now we have this nice streamlined form over here. Text shadow, we already have a shadow. We don't have to worry about that too much. And you can style all this text as you would with any of the typical text settings you would find in an editor. But the button itself, if I go into button here, I can keep it as default, or I can actually change that. So maybe I make the background, so I make the text black, which it already is. Maybe the background color is white, so it stands out a bit more. I can adjust the border. I can actually change the border radius, so we get like a square or a pill, or maybe just if I bring it down, rounded corners. And we can change all of these aspects of the button, including the font weight. There's actually an icon. We can add a little icon on there on hover, but it's not really showing up at the moment for whatever reason. We can turn that off so it shows all the time. And there's actually a shadow, so I'm going to choose to turn the shadow off. Now, I've got a shadow on by default, so I don't know why that's not doing that either, but I can go through and make the shadow color different, I guess. Make it a bit easier, but I'm not sure why some of this isn't working the way I want it to. I think it might have something to do with the text shadow. So if I turn the text shadow off altogether, I'm not sure. Not sure exactly why we have that there, but either way, we'll keep on moving. It's worth actually going in and exploring these settings and playing with them to get the result you want, because there's just a ton of options. I don't need to really walk through all of them, but you sort of get the idea by going through, seeing the heading here and expanding and closing. Once again, spacing. If I want a bit more space around this box, I can add in a margin of, say, 80 at the top and bottom and create more space below and above. Now, the padding will have a similar effect at the moment. So if I actually go back to content for a second, back to the background, add, say, a black background or maybe a green background. The charcoal is probably best. I go back to design into spacing, and I can add more padding. If I go 80 and 80, now we get this larger box. I can even add more padding either side, so I'll go 60 and 60 just to demonstrate. And now we've got a box with a little bit more space around it, and it's probably a little bit more calm to look at. And of course, I can hover over and simply remove that by clicking this little circle arrow, going back to the way it was. But I can add a box shadow, so we get a nice shadow behind the box. Make that nice and black. And I can move this around, increase the blur strength. So you've really got a lot of options to make this look the way you want. And then of course, things like filters. We can add a blend mode to it, such as multiply. We can could change the opacity, the hue, although it's all grey, so I can't really change the hue at the moment. I can invert it. Oh, here we are, opacity, so I can make it semi-transparent. And you can also set this up so you have it semi-transparent. And if I click on the hover section, with the hover, I can crank it right up. So that way, when I hover over it, it'll actually go full strength. Because I'm playing with those settings at the moment, it's not doing it, but you sort of get the idea. So you can really do a lot with it. You can skew it, resize. Here, we can rotate it and get like a weird effect like that, and it'll actually still function. So pretty much setting things up, getting them looking the way you want, you can then go ahead and play with all of the various options that you like to get it looking the way you want, and even add in animation, so maybe a folding animation, so that when the page loads, it actually comes in. So I'm going to actually save that, and we'll quickly have a look at the final result. Okay, so I've exited the visual builder. I'm going to scroll down to our opt-in, and we get this nice little animation as it appears there, and we can click. Because I've used the same color background, it actually disappears, so I don't recommend that. But that's our opt-in. Good to go, ready to get people to sign up, and to be honest, for something that we've just played around with, it doesn't look too bad. And anyone who signs up here will be linked up to our MailChimp list. And that's pretty much it. Now, if you're having trouble linking up the actual MailChimp account and list, check out the videos I'm going to pop in the video card here or in the description below. Otherwise, I hope to see you again soon, and have a great day.